As the leading advocate for lower drug prices in the Senate, number one, I've hauled big pharma and pharmacy benefit managers executives before my committee of Congress. Second, I led a 2-year bipartisan investigation into insulin price gouging. And 3, introduced bipartisan reforms to lower the cost of insulin and many other prescription drugs. In the past few years, legislation I've championed into law has saved the taxpayers $9 6/10 billion. Right now, the Senate is not acting on bipartisan legislation to lower drug costs. I support a bipartisan plan by Senators Collins and Shaheen that establishes a $35 out-of-pocket cap on insulin for patients with private insurance, while this bill also reforms PBMs, the powerful middlemen who are behind rising drug prices, because if you don't address PBM reform, a cap on out-of-pocket costs will only result in shifting patient costs somewhere else. In my 2-year bipartisan insulin investigation, we found that a drug's list price is tied to rebates and other fees that drug companies have to pay the PBMs. The scheme encourages drug makers to spike the list price of the drug to offer a greater rebate, and then you know what happens in turn? Secure priority placement on the health plan's list of covered medications. We have to hold PBMs accountable then if you really want to lower prescription drug costs. In 2018, I called on the Federal Trade Commission to assess consolidation in the pharmaceutical supply chain and its impact on drug prices. But I didn't wait for the FTC to act. I introduced the prescription pricing for people with Senator Cantwell, and it was approved out of the Judiciary Committee unanimously last year. A few months ago, the FTC agreed to conduct a study of PBM business practices. This is very welcome news, but the FTC needs to complete this study and do it in a timely way. Last week, I asked FTC Chair Khan about when the PBM study would be completed. Chair Khan didn't commit to a date. While we need more sunshine on the PBMs, we don't need to wait to take some action. Senator Cantwell and I have introduced the PBM Transparency Act, and it's been approved by the committee's chief chairs, the Commerce Committee, on a 19-9 vote. The bill prohibits PBMs from engaging in spread pricing and clawbacks. Both spread pricing and clawbacks are actions that game the system and hurt consumers. When the majority party pursued a partisan reckless spending and tax package that they called the Inflation Reduction Act, I filed a Grassley-Wyden Prescription Drug Pricing Reduction Act as an amendment that had 10 Republican co-sponsors. I did that in order to show that the majority party could have chosen a path to pass drug pricing reform on a bipartisan basis if the majority wanted to do that. The bill establishes PBM accountability and transparency, something missing from the Inflation Reduction Act. So, Madam President, we have bipartisan prescription drug legislation awaiting action. We don't have to wait till 2026 for what happened in August in the Inflation Reduction Act to get anything done, because that doesn't take effect until 2026. This includes the bipartisan plan to lower insulin prices and my two bills to hold PBMs accountable. That's what we need bipartisan action in the United States Senate on. I've also led out of the Judiciary Committee 3 bipartisan bills to establish more competition to lower prescription drug prices. They save taxpayers a combined $1.9 billion. So, Madam President, the Senate must act on 6 bipartisan bills. Collectively, they lower insulin costs. Secondly, hold PBMs accountable. And lastly, establish more competition to lower prescription drug prices. I yield.